to TV. I am Dr. Tiff. We are continuing our series on menu navigation. If you didn't see the Chili's Bar and Grill video, then definitely go back and take a look at that if that's one of your favorites. Another national favorite and a common entry that I see on food journals is Outback. It's a great family restaurant. It's always got a lot of different options, good price points. So definitely something to look at in terms of where and what can I get there that's going to keep me within my budget in terms of my macros and not overshoot one or category or the other. So we're going to start out, and the really great thing about Outback is, and a lot of restaurants are doing this now, they actually have a nutrition calculator, so you can sub and tweak and change the side items that you get with a specific protein or entree, and you can really see what's the impact of making these substitutions and what am I saving versus what am I giving up if I want to get a baked potato or I want the mashed potatoes, or if I sub-steam veggies, how much does that save me, and is it worth making that substitution? So the first thing I always do when I get to a website, if I'm looking for the nutrition information, is I just try to find where that lives. Usually it's going to be under menu, and you can see, you can go into the actual menu here, or you can scroll down to the bottom and it says nutrition facts. So that's where I always start out, and so we'll just go there now. And you can see this is a really great setup here. They've got all their different categories. And the first place that you typically are going to start if you're looking for the healthier options, almost all restaurants now have some kind of category. Theirs is called under 600 calories. It might be healthy and fit. It might be lighter fare or light choices. So just always kind of scroll through that menu. Don't always assume that those are the best choices. Do your homework, but it's always a good bet. So if I go here and I select, just look here, fish is always going to be a leaner protein option other than salmon. Salmon's a little bit higher fat, which we've talked about. Not a bad choice. I never say bad or good, but just a little bit higher fat. So when you're eating out, you know they're going to probably cook it in oil or cook it in butter, and the sides are going to be a little higher in fat with added creams and things like that, and the potatoes. Then anytime you can get a leaner protein, then you know you're going to at least save some on the front end there. So I'm just looking here. They've got this simply grilled mahi. And mahis are really light, flaky white fish. Really a good option for a protein source. Is going to give you a lot of protein without a lot of fat. Again, unless there's sauces and things on it. But this appears to just be simply grilled. And it comes with mixed veggies. So if you click on that, what's great is scroll on up here and you can see the actual breakdown. So you've got 17 carbs, 13 fat, and 51 proteins. So it's a really pretty good balance. That's the mahi with steamed veggies. Right, so you probably have a little room to add some more carbs in there if you wanted to. You could get a side of a plain baked potato, or you could have some of the bread that they bring out. Again, you just have to put it in and see, but because your carbs are fairly moderate depending on what you've had the rest of the day, probably don't need to add any protein there. 40 to 45 grams is really ideal. This seems a little high on the protein count. I don't know how big the fillet of mahi is, but that seems like a pretty big serving of protein there for a restaurant. But it's never bad to overestimate. So that is the total meal of the mahi with the mixed vegetables, and that's coming from the under 600 calorie menu. Now, if we go back and you wanted to just see, all right, what would it look like if I wanted the mahi but I didn't want the steamed veggies? If you go here, these are just the entrees themselves in terms of the meat product or the protein source. So you can see if you scroll up, they show you just the grilled mahi with 1 carb, 2 grams of fat, 47 grams of protein. So if you wanted to see what different side items, how those would impact, then here you can see all the different options. So let's just say, man, I am really up for some loaded mashed potatoes. So I can click that and I can recalculate. If I scroll back up, I can see, okay, that took my carbs up to 35, not terrible, but it took my fats up to 23, protein just to 58, probably a little bit of cheese or something in the mashed potatoes that's adding in some protein there. So again, depending on what your fat budget is and depending on what you've eaten for the rest of the day, you might actually be able to get loaded mashed potatoes. It didn't take it through the roof for sure. Again, if you had gotten a sirloin, if you had gotten a ribeye, if you had gotten the salmon, where you're already going to be up in double-digit fats just with your protein, then adding in that mashed potato is going to take you up to 40, 50 grams of fat. But because you chose that leaner protein, you might have a little more flexibility with your sides. Now, let's say you had a catered lunch and you already really not on track with your numbers. You really got to keep things moderate. If we want to go down here, we can see, all right, I really know I don't have room for those mashed potatoes. What if I just wanted to get the asparagus? Obviously, you got to pay a little more. It's a premium side. But we'll recalculate that. Scroll back up and see what it did. We'll look at that. Now it's just 5 carbs, right? Asparagus is a very low carb veggie. It only added, looks like, 4 or 5 grams of fat. Probably cooked the asparagus in a little bit of olive oil. And then it takes your protein just up 2 grams to 49. So that is going to be a super lean, super clean option. Again, with only 5 carbs, you could probably add a little bit of something else if you're, keep those fats in check. Again, you probably can't do the mashed potatoes and the asparagus, but you could do a plain baked potato. You could do a sweet potato. Just try to eyeball the portions there and educate yourself on what a serving of potato would look like, because at Outback sometimes they're just, huge baked potatoes to feed a family of 4. But this is awesome. I mean, anytime that you find a restaurant that's putting these calculators on here where you can tweak and play, you can spend 5-10 minutes. I mean, that took me less than 10 minutes to go through here, plug and play a little bit, see what I get. Then when I walk in, I know exactly what I want. I'm getting the grilled mahi, side of asparagus, or side of mashed potatoes, and I'm good to go, and I even know in my head where that's putting me. So if I do want a little bit of bread, or if somebody orders an appetizer to share, I probably have a little space for that, and maybe depending on that, I make my side dish option. If nobody wants an app, maybe I get the mashed potatoes. If we end up getting a Bloomin Onion and I want a couple bites of that, I know if I get the asparagus, then my fat and carbs are going to be low enough to make a little bit of room for that. So Outback, again, I never like to hear people say, I can't go there. But if you do have to go here, you do have to be mindful. Just because you're put in a situation where somebody's birthday is tonight, we're going to Outback, that doesn't mean you have to eat the worst thing on the menu. You can take a little time, take 10 minutes out of your day, get off the cell phone, get off the computer, get off the internet, get on there and say, I'm going to take 10 minutes out of my day to look at this, make a healthful choice for dinner. So hope that was helpful, and we'll see you next time on What Would the Doctor Order? See you then.